You are listening to The Building Code, a podcast by Buildertrend where we talk all things technology and construction. Be sure to stick around to the end of the episode where you can find out how to be a part of the Building Code crew. Let's get it. All right, everybody, welcome again to The Building Code. Today, we're continuing our regional series, taking a look back at COVID-19, talking to a handful of our clients, and just wanted to hear their story about the last 10 crazy months. Today, we have Josh from Cabin John Builders. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
You're out of Maryland. I'm seeing out your window right now. It's rainy. It's kind of the perfect January day.
Yes, it is. So we're right outside of Washington, D.C., which does add a little bit of complication both to what we do and our COVID experience.
Oh, I bet.
Because we work in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. So instead of keeping track of one set of rules on any given day, we're keeping track of at least three sets.
Fun.
So, yeah, it's a good place to be.
That is a unique challenge. Yeah. So, so what would you say you guys work in terms of mileage, like 10 or 15 miles around you in any given direction? And that's three different sites?
Yeah, typically we're about probably 15 miles away. Actually, if everyone could see the window you're looking out of right now, you can see Virginia from my desk, even though I'm sitting in Maryland. And Washington, D.C. is about 5 or 6 miles off to my right. So we're actually located sort of right where they all come together,
wow.
Which is a fantastic opportunity for work, but leads to jurisdictional issues,
especially in the time of COVID. So before we get into that, because obviously that's the focus of this episode in this series, let's just hear about Cabin John Builders. I will say to start, thank you and the team, because you guys have, in about next month, you've been with us 10 years. So that's a huge amount of time for our client base. We started slow. We've definitely ramped up over the last 4 or 5 years in terms of volume, but our first few clients are still very near and dear to our heart because they took a chance on our technology when technology wasn't really the main thing to do. So I just want to say thank you before you get started.
I appreciate that, and it actually weaves a little bit sort of interestingly into our story.
Let's hear it.
My brother and I are business partners. Cabin John Builders has existed for about 11 years. We were in the industry before, working with in a family business, and decided to go out on our own for a couple of reasons. And one of them, as we started to have our own company, was realizing that we could dictate how things were going. And construction being an industry that is traditionally behind the times, especially on technology, especially on some business practices, because as you go down the food chain, I remember numerous times buying fax machines for subcontractors back in the day, or setting up Gmail addresses so they could interact with us online and not even understanding. And we felt like having a open dialogue with our clients, which having an online project management system certainly helps with, as well as streamlining our overhead and the people we had working with, would be part of sort of our approach of solid custom building, which really is our focus, working with customers to match their lifestyle into their home, with a more modern approach to how we would run our office, trying to be paperless, trying to be efficient, trying to cut down on overhead. And if we all do our math, this company was started during the downturn.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that again was, we all remember that. So that again was part of this foundation plan and direction, was how can we run efficiently? How can we deliver an experience to our clients that is more keeping with the times and keeping with the situation.
Wow, that's a great story. I don't think people realize two things you said. Number one, I think people totally realize, like, hey, it used to be like fax and phone calls. Like, people get that, right? Because 10 years ago, the smartphones didn't exist. And it was fax, and email was not really used that much in this industry. And I think everybody gets that. What people don't realize is there was a trend or there was a business practice for the majority of construction kind of shutting the client out of like information. It was almost like, I don't want them to know anything because then they're going to kind of like hound me for information. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it's very fair to say. And having worked with, parents who were in the industry forever, they talk about even a generation back where home builders would hand back your deposit check if you wanted to change the swing of the door.
Right.
And this again, part of why we wanted to do it our way is my father believes I'm the builder. You ask for the price of your project. I give you one number on a contract. You say yes or no.
Yep.
And that doesn't make sense given today's marketplace, given the information asymmetry that is out there. You really need to adapt to today's consumer. And I think it is both for better and worse. I think there are certainly times where it can be time consuming. You can get caught up in silly little arguments.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I talk about, and it's one of the reasons also when we started, we sort of expose our costs and our markup in every estimate.
Mm-hmm.
And people ask me why. And my first answer is the fear of our markup significantly outpaces our actual markup. That everybody has this feeling of, a builder's out there to rip them off, or people have been taken advantage of, or am I getting the truth? And people aren't afraid. They know they need to pay for our company and that we have insurance and that we have trucks and all of these things. And I think it does a lot to the relationship to open that up quickly and sort of say, hey, here's what it is. If you have a problem with what the foundation's going to cost, ask me why it's that expensive. If you have a problem with what we're going to cost, ask me about that and we'll discuss that, instead of saying, okay, here you go, $970,000, yes or no.
Take it or leave it. Yeah, I don't think people talk about that enough, and I guess it's great to hear that you and your brother were sort of seeing what was going to happen with clients and communication and the information age where they can go learn a lot. And I think it's wild to some people who work at Buildertrend. They're younger, as you've been here and met our team, but also companies that have come in over the last few years in the industry, that the trend was not to share information, not only with the client, but with the subcontractors. Like, you didn't want them to see your plans because they're going to shop at somebody else. And there was no networking between builders in terms of sharing information. There was surely networking, but it was like, it was a very, very, you held everything close to your chest, and you're seeing that sort of evolve now, which is great.
Yeah, and I think it is great for the industry because, and I'm somebody who believes that, there is plenty of room for reputable, qualified builders out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really our job to hold the industry up, to do things right, and to sort of highlight the people who aren't following the law, are causing problems. It is not the issue that it was in the industry 15 or 20 years ago,
mm-hmm.
or longer back, but that still exists. And I think it's, all of this helps add to the legitimacy and the professionalism of what are professional companies.
Yep. And that's something that we're really passionate about as well. So we definitely share that. So you guys are in, so Marilyn, one thing I wanted to have you explain, because I don't think people get this, is like Cabin John is actually the city you're in, right? It's not some sort of weird,
Correct.
Not some sort of like story you have about like your name, right?
No, it is actually the city I'm in, which is a really small, really old city in the middle of popular. So if people know the DC area, they've heard of places like Bethesda, Maryland, Potomac. We're sort of right in the middle of there in this old subdivision of old small area that was actually where people would take a carriage ride out to sit by the river and cool down in the 1800s.
Oh boy.
And we were trying to come up with this brilliant name, and how are we going to figure this out? And my lawyer was sort of hounding me going, give me the name. I need to file the paperwork. We need to do this. And we just sort of were like, well, all of our competition has these creative names, and they were all either like their last name or
mm-hmm.
where they were from.
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of looked out and we're like, oh, Cabin John Builders is available. Fine, we'll use that and we'll deal with it later. And it just sort of stuck.
That's great. Good for SEO there. I mean, you are the builder in Cabin John.
Yes. Yes.
There you go. All right. So let's get to the meat of the subject here. So let's call it March 15th last year. I think the reality of what we all sort of maybe thought was coming or didn't think was coming hit with the COVID-19 regulations and sort of the shutdowns. Can you kind of walk me through you and your brothers dealing with that initially and then the next coming weeks?
So I think initially we were both fortunate and unfortunate in our area in that we were in the part of the country that was sort of hit first or early on, but
Mm-hmm.
we were a couple weeks behind New York. So our government and we had the ability to see a little bit of what was coming. They were a little more proactive, so it didn't get quite as severe. And I think in the beginning, there was a little bit of a deer in headlights for a day or so as we were trying to understand what the regulations meant, what the lockdown meant. There was a debate in our state over, as well as nationally, over whether builders were going to be essential or not essential. And I'll say we were lucky we had some terrific sources of information. I'm not necessarily an association rah-rah guy all the time, but our local association did an amazing job working with our governor's office, communicating to us what the laws were. And then I think we just had to, like any other problem, sort of take it piece by piece. A new piece of legislation comes out, read it, try and understand what you don't, process it. We did a lot of work working with our Builder 20 group as well. We had a lot of people who were going through similar situations in different parts of the country. So we had some groupthink there, but I think it was also setting a priority list. So how are we going to deal with immediate safety of our staff, clients, and job sites? Then what's the procedure? What are we doing on? And trying to communicate as we went, because you could only do as a small business so much at a time. So I remember back to March, we were writing a memo to our clients weekly. Here's what's going on. Here's what we're doing for masks, for washing, for working. And as time went on and we better understood, that obviously slowed down a little and it became a little more ingrained. But and obviously we also have the dueling priorities of, we're focused on our job sites, on our, field staff and their safety. But then there's also, how do we run a business through this? Are we staying open? Are we applying for PPP and EIDL funds? How does that work into our process? Even if we're allowed to work, should we shut down? And going through that process in as systematic a manner as possible.
Yeah. The one thing that's, I guess, really a really difficult decision for you and other owners out there, because construction was deemed essential in the majority of states, you actually had to make a decision, as you said, for your staff, your clients, and your job sites. Hey, we can work, but is this the best thing for our people or our clients?
Correct. And then also, there's the subset of that goes with, given the safety regulations, which we agreed with and we thought were important to keep staff safe, can we be efficient? So we were working on finishing a 16,000 square foot house at the time that had about 3 months left to go.
That's large.
You have more than 10 people working on that house on a regular basis to get that type of home delivered. So we had to go through, we have the advantage of space. So it was a little bit job site by job site. Here's somewhere we have the advantage of spacing, but are we going to get effective work done if we can have like 2 4-person crews, a delivery person and a supervisor, and that's it. And working through that. And we did make the decision, which we stuck to until now, of not working in any occupied homes except for emergency repairs, because it just, from both a safety and a disruption standpoint, it just felt like too much. I can't and I don't want to control where my painter goes when work is over. And now I'm going to bring him into your house where, you've got 2 spouses working and a couple of kids trying to do online school, and we've got a compressor and tearing out a bathroom or whatever. It didn't feel like a good fit. Mm-hmm. So we actually stopped all of that type of work.
And had renovation.
And are yet to resume.
And I'm sorry, had renovation and remodeling been like, what size part of your business was that?
So we're about 50-50 new home and renovation addition, in part because there is no land really where we are. So you get some tear downs, you get some whole remodels, tended to be larger size projects. So most of our renovations and additions, people are still moving out. We're ripping the roof off, ripping the back of the house, but we were doing some work, and we had a couple of, clients who were finishing their jobs And obviously they wanted to get into their nice new safe house, but we didn't, feel comfortable marching guys into there right as COVID was hitting. So we had to work through those issues. And I think being a custom builder, the client side played a big role in it too. We had some clients who were very safety focused and concerned about the health of our crews and making sure it was and we had some people, frankly, who were very focused on their needs. And a new regulation would come out from the state, and I'd have an email from one of their in-house counsels telling me what we needed to do under the law in terms of stretching it and getting us to their house, and look at this loophole, you can get more people. So that was a dynamic we had to work with and say, okay, we understand that, but we've got to keep safety in mind. It's ultimately on us, and work through those issues.
So that's interesting. So when you talk about the litigious nature of maybe regionally, maybe it's different regionally with different types of clients and different, levels. Did you guys learn anything about the contracts and the different language you haven't? Did you guys make any adjustments there, or do you feel like you were set up pretty well for that?
I think we were, from what I've learned, obviously I'm not an attorney, but I spoke to mine plenty of times. Initially, we were pretty well covered by the sort of general force majeure language because this was so unexpected. Past that, though, it has forced us to change our language a little bit in terms of better understanding construction delays, material delays, and how that relates to the project, and how that relates to consequences. And also now we've adjusted our contract language going forward, because I've also heard that force majeure does not exist as much because the pandemic has been around for 10 months. So I can't say, oh, surprise, this thing happened in January.
Right.
We sort of knew it was coming. So that has changed it.
So good tip for any other business owners out there. Probably just a good time. I'm sure you have. Get your lawyer to take a look at your terms and conditions. Make sure they're up to date with the force. What was that term again?
Force majeure.
Force majeure. Yeah. Got it. So it looks like that's something that's you've adjusted. What else if anything, have you and your business partner, sort of said, okay, we learned from this, and we're going to maybe make some adjustments internally with our people, with our clients, with our subs? Is there anything that kind of stands out?
Well, I think there have been a number of changes, most of them minor, but I think they add up pretty well. So one example is we're a small office team, so we didn't have a lot of formal meetings. I also was someone who didn't believe particularly in remote work in such a tactile industry. Well, we were forced into remote work. It has been much better than I expected. And we started what we thought was going to be temporary daily sort of quick stand-up that I have with the office manager that also has a weekly larger group meeting. And it's really been an asset to the company to have that formal time, even though we're still talking and messaging and emailing, to have that formal what's going on for the day quick meeting has really helped, and I think is something that will continue.
Yeah, there's some power in a recurring meeting. Sometimes it's like we meet to meet, but when it's the right length, and there's power in somebody knowing that, hey, I don't have to call him right now. We're meeting tomorrow morning.
Right.
Hey, I don't have to talk to this person. We talk every Wednesday. So I'm just going to get my list together, and therefore we can just deal with it all at the same time. When somebody knows that there's going to be that time that they can be heard or to speak or to deal with things, there's definitely power in that.
No, there is power in that. And I think it also, interestingly to me, really helped a couple of our employees who were struggling with the pandemic, living by themselves, not having a lot of interaction. How do I get into this work from home? It brought a little bit of, repeatability and sort of a regiment to their day where they knew, okay, I got to be up at this time, ready to go, and mimicked a work day more than okay, I'm on my couch in my pajamas with a laptop. So it actually benefited us in that way. I think a lot of our job site hygiene is something that will stay even past this. construction sites are a dirty place, and we keep them, clean and organized in our materials. But I don't know how much attention we've ever paid to things like hand washing and separation of trash and cleaning down tools that are in a shared environment and things like that. And I seems like a best practice.
Yeah, it's like obviously some of the best companies like yourself, you guys had a company policy, let's say, like, hey, we want to keep a clean job site, but that was only a company policy. Now it's like state regulation. Like, if you don't, we will be fined. That seems like it's probably pushed a lot of people to say, this isn't just a choice or a differentiator between my company and somebody else's. This needs to happen every day. Oh, and by the way, us doing this helps us keep things more organized in the job site. Maybe there's a benefit there.
Yeah, no, I think there is. And I also think there was awakening. A lot of builders, ourselves included, confused an organized job site with a clean job site.
Oh, I like that.
And learning that clean is different than organized, especially when it comes to the health of your people. And I think when it comes to our trade partners and to our employees, we try and treat them with respect and work with them on a very professional level. But seeing us buying PPE and creating hand washing stations and making sure they were paid if they needed to stay home sick, and distancing and masks and all of these things that were ostensibly for their health, resounded very well with them. And I think they appreciated, we weren't the only one, but they appreciated the builders who were taking their health and family seriously, and were a little concerned about the ones who weren't.
Yeah. I guess it was a time to kind of see who's real, right? As always in building, when building's good, it's all very easy. But when things get hard and people have your back and it's not just dollars and cents, we had another guest on from the West Coast who said the same thing. It was a renewed focus on taking care of your employees, taking care of your subcontractors, and making them known how important they are to you.
Absolutely. And I think it also renewed the collaboration. We went away from, we all get into this habit of, calling the electrician, you're going to be here tomorrow, right? You got the stuff you need? Okay, cool. Thanks. Bye. Into a real conversation of, are you going to be there? How many guys? Are they feeling well? Can they get it done? What's your supply chain issue? Do you have a delivery truck coming? When's it coming? And really collaborating to make this work. Like we talked about that larger project where we're, limited by the number of people. We had to get into, okay, I know you want to bring 4 guys and I know you're trying to keep payroll going for them, but I only really have space for 3 guys. And would you be willing to do, can we make this work with 2 or 3 guys on this day, but you can work on Saturday and bring other guys to get them the hours or whatever it was. So I think it renewed the collaboration and problem solving past sort of the rut.
Yeah, I mean, like,
sort of get into.
It gave you a chance to truly show your subs that you're compassionate and you definitely are there to help them as a partner. Like, you understand. I know you guys, you got to get your payroll people, but here's the situation we're in. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also made it clearer and easier for us to say to them, hey, these are the things we need in this environment, not just for you, not for the other people, but also for our business, because we're trying to keep things rolling. We're trying to keep people paid. We're trying to get through all this just as you are.
Yeah. It feels like whenever, like, if this ever happens again, whenever like the vaccine is fully out and like no more masks, it's like maybe just throw a party for everybody. Just tons of beer. You guys all in a tight space, all the subs and vendors,
Right.
Just a celebration.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Every year, that was one of the hardest things for us is every year we throw a big like barbecue basically during the holidays and invite not only our staff, but our subs, like give out a winter hat or whatever. And just, we're lucky that one of our key employees and lead framers is Brazilian and loves to barbecue.
Oh, really?
So
nice.
we like do this huge setup on our on one of our job sites and have everybody over. And it was really hard not to have that camaraderie.
Yeah.
I was like texting with guys being like, next year, we're gonna really do this next year. And
hey, maybe we can do Christmas in July.
We might have to.
There you go. Maybe I can get out there. Well, I want to be really appreciative of your time, Josh. This has been great. Honestly, this series was an idea, but that we thought would be good, but we're getting so much great information that I think that every listener is going to be able to either relate to or take with them and go, hey, that was a great idea. I mean, I've got like tons of notes here from you. So, first of all, great job. I think, it's obvious that you guys are doing things right there. Again, very much appreciative that the 10 plus years now you're going to be with us, and thanks for your time today.
Oh, you're very welcome. I enjoyed it.
All right, man. Wish you the best.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Hey, everyone. As you know, this year's International Builder Show is going virtual. So if you're attending IBSX, be sure to visit Buildertrend's virtual booth to check out our latest feature updates and talk one-on-one with our team. In addition, I'll be leading an on-demand education session. So be sure to look out for Going Virtual, your guide to project management on the go. It's available February 9th, and you'll learn all about the nuances of remotely managing your projects, some technology that can help you, and how you can save more time. Registration is still open online at buildershow.com. See you there. We have Nick Colarusso from Cedar Mill Group joining us. We are talking to companies in the Northeast region of our regional podcast. They're out of New Hampshire. We're really excited. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Paul, thanks for having me today.
How have things been this year?
So if you'd asked me this question back in February if you said, forecast for me what the year is going to look like, I probably would have been doom gloom. And I'm usually an optimistic person, but back then it was just so much uncertainty that, you need to adapt and, stay fluid. And honestly, we had a record year this past year.
Wow.
We far surpassed my goals, and this year coming up is looking to beat this past year.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. We're hearing a lot of that. We started this regional podcast series really with the goal of like hearing people's stories, like while it happened, right?
Sure.
What did you guys go through specific to your state, your local? So you kind of talk about it like there's local rules, your county rules, your city rules, your state rules, right? And so we really wanted to hear that. What's so great about this series, as listeners know who have been listening to it, is that overwhelmingly it's been a positive thing. It's something that really snapped back quickly, and building and construction have been one of these highlights of the industry that's benefited from this, which is so great. We definitely want to hear that. Let's start off by just sort of laying the table for everybody listening. Who is Cedar Mill Group? Where are you guys located? What do you do there? And kind of give me the rundown.
You got it. No, that sounds great. So at Cedar Mill Group, we are a design, build, remodeling company, strictly residential construction at this point. We've been in the business as Cedar Mill Group for 14 years. Before that, we rebranded back in 2007. And it was, if some of the people that go back to 2007, it was, one of the trickiest years to rebrand. Nobody knew that 2008 was going to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And, we started out and we had a little bit of, they had a little bit of savings, and, honestly, it's a 100% relationship-based business. And we just pounded the pavement with some of the contacts that we knew, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And, we, in the middle years, we weren't thriving, but we were staying afloat. And then it just, for the past 7 years, I would say we've had an upward trend, and it's amazing the amount of repeat business that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is due back to, the fact that we are a remodeling company. We do new construction, but I would say 75% of our business is all remodeling, typically high-end homes where people live there. So it's kind of a niche market where, I tell everybody that anybody can build you something, but it's, how was the process? How was the experience? And, if you didn't want to kick me out, at the end, then we knew we did a good job.
That's a good little thing. Yeah. I like that one because, as everybody talks about, it's a relationship, right? And relationships have their ups and downs. You're in somebody's home. If you're doing remodeling, that carries its own sort of stress, right? So yeah, if they don't hate you by the end of it, then you've probably done pretty good.
I tell customers, because now I'm on the sales side. So, I've taken, so I'm vice president of Cedar Mill Group now. Paul, when you first met me, I was a project manager. So I started, in the trenches, kind of just running these projects. And, we've grown so much since then that, now I'm strictly on the sales side and kind of the project development side. And I tell every single one of our customers at the first meeting, when we sit down to the sales table, I said, if we've done our job correctly, you're excited to get going. halfway through the project, you're going to call me up and you're going to say, Nick, when are we going to be done? And, you're going to start to get antsy. And at the end of the project, you're going to be sad to see us go. And we've had every single customer over the past, 7 years, they've been sad to see us go. And it's been amazing what they've done for us after the project. I mean, we've had, project parties, they all become your best friends. They know that, if they call, our number, somebody's going to pick up and handle the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
well,
it's
yeah,
kind of an easy business.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've got a lot of questions about that because a lot of the point of this podcast in general, beyond this COVID series, is trying to find these things that you guys do really well, and then hopefully sharing that with other professionals out there. So I want to talk about that. But you had referenced that we've known each other a long time because back when I was doing sales for Buildertrend when we were a smaller company, I always had targeted Cedar Mill Group because you guys just were a really great company, wanted you on board. I think I hunted you guys for a few months, maybe even longer. Finally got you in front of a demo, and then you guys made the jump. So we are super appreciative of you guys using Buildertrend for all these years and letting us be along with you for the journey. Now, everybody knows remodeling and really construction in general, if you're doing custom projects, is a referral-based business. It's probably everybody's number one sort of lead source. So what do you guys do specifically at Cedar Mill to ensure that you're getting max referrals from your clients?
I think 90% of it is listening. I mean, it's, anybody can talk. We can sit here and have a good conversation, but it's listening and addressing, I don't want to call them problems. I'll call them opportunities. And it's just being there to be, a sounding board and to make, people feel that they're trusted, they're heard, and that they're being taken care of. And honestly, if you looked at my marketing budget for this past year, I think my marketing budget was $1,200, which, that's to keep my domain going.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, and maybe a little bit of website prep, but I mean, it's all been referral based. And, it was amazing. So we, on a personal note, we just had a baby. So my family and I had our first son, which
Congrats,
is
man.
super exciting.
That's awesome.
And the amount of customers that came out of the woodwork, to reach out and congratulate and just, that wanted to be a part of our life, it really resonated with me, and it showed me that what we were doing was working. And there's no pre-programmed script. I keep telling people that I'm the worst salesperson in the world. I'm the least salesy salesperson because we're real.
It probably makes you some of the best.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's great. We just want to start a conversation, and we want to say what we're going to do, and then we want to do what we're going to say.
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
It's so simple, and I think some people try to overcomplicate it. And I've always said in sales, especially in this day and age, nobody wants to be sold. There's so much information out there that they can go find themselves if they're curious. Nobody wants to be sold. They just want to be heard. And I think, you had mentioned that. That's a great thing you guys do because, I think construction companies, and we talk about this all the time on the podcast, is that we forget because we do it so often that this is their first time. And this is a really important thing for their business, probably financially and personally. They're changing their structure they live in so they can make it more livable for them and their style of a family, wherever they are. And so it's important to really, I think, appreciate that and then over-communicate and listen. And I think it seems like you guys do a good job of that. Do you actually specifically ask for referrals? I know a lot of good companies, they say, look, hey, if we've done a great job here, tell people.
I never actually, I can tell you, in all honesty, I've never asked for a referral, but it's been amazing. The amount of people that have come up to me and they've said, hey, Nick, do you mind, can we refer our friends? Can we refer, so-and-so? And the one big thing that I've done, and this is an odd statistic, but, we had 20% of our business over the last 3 years that came in from referrals from customers that were never our customers. And I'll explain that a little bit.
What does that mean? Okay. Let's unpack that one.
Customers that came to us that, we always go to a first meeting. I always want to, we start with a phone interview, but I always want to go out and, see the project. I want to meet with the people and, and we'll spend on average, 1 to 2 hours just talking with somebody. And if I feel that it's a project that is a little bit too small for us, because we're in a niche market, we've gone ahead and we found out that, between, this project size and that project size, we run really well and we run efficiently. But instead of declining, and saying, hey, listen, we don't, we can't do your project, I always want to leave somebody with a referral to another partner. We have copious amounts of partners in the business, and I always, call it co-petition, not competition, because there's enough work out there for everybody. And I've, honest to God, I have had more people call me that said, hey, you met with, my friend Betty, and you never did her project, but you had a great referral for her. And, just to have a company that's willing to go ahead and, do the legwork and make the introduction, knowing that it's not going to be, a direct impact, direct revenue generator, really resonates with people. And I never knew that.
That's a great tip. Nice. And that's a great takeaway from anybody, because every interaction is an advertisement for your business, positive or negative, no matter what. 100%. It's just the reality of it. And so, I just did a class for the International Builder Show. Have you guys ever came and seen our booth at the show?
No, I need to go do that. Oh, hopefully we can get back to that in person.
We'll get it back probably next year. But so it's all virtual right now, and it's Danielle, it's February 9th. So if not registered, I would register, because I just did a class, and in that I talked about sales, and having a sales process is important, not because you don't want to be personal, but because you can deliver the exact right, consistent marketing message every time. And so if your sales process is, no matter what, we're going to take a call, and this client may not be anywhere near the budget we like, that's our wheelhouse, but we're going to take the 30 minutes, we're going to meet with them for an hour, and we're going to give them that referral for some of your referral network. And man, that's planting the seed. So that's really great to hear.
And I always, and the key to doing that is that I always ask the potential customer, or the person that I'm referring, I always ask them to reach out to me afterwards and let me know how it goes.
Great.
Because it just brings the conversation full circle. And I always tell people, I want to give a good referral. I don't want to just, have somebody, I just don't want to give a name that's going to go ahead and, handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings that personal level. And there's been some customers that have come back to me and they said, hey, Nick, this is a great referral. They did, X, Y, and Z really good, but hey, they could have done this better. And I have personal relationships with all these companies, and I have a sit down with them, after the fact, and say, hey, listen, this is information that they may not have told you, but we've built this relationship, and this is the feedback that we're getting. And a good company is going to listen to that feedback and they're going to implement that.
Well, holy cow, Nick, you're just dropping great stuff here. Where'd you come from? Did you grow up in construction, or?
I did, yeah. So I grew up in Connecticut. We're a New Hampshire-based business now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny. I wasn't going to go to college. So my backstory on this: I grew up when I was 15. I joined a framing crew, and I was going to be a framer for the rest of my life. I said, "This is it. This is great. It's sunny outside. You get a tan in the summer,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to go to the gym. This is perfect." Luckily, my parents woke me up and they explained to me that that was between May and August, and they said become a framer in the middle of the winter and get back to me. And I said, okay, and I see where you're going with that. And they said, the least you can do is go ahead and go to school, get an education, go be a sales guy, go be, I come from a huge insurance family, and
Mm-hmm.
they said, go work in the insurance industry. And I said, well, okay, fine. I'll go to school. And it wasn't until my, my second semester of my freshman year, it finally dawned on me that I was going to be graduating with 3,500 people that were all management majors, and I said, I don't want to be fighting with 3,500 other people when I get out of here, 3.5 years from now. What can I do? What skills do I have? So I actually went, so I got an architecture degree from Keene State, and
where's that at?
It was once I applied everything that I knew. I loved working with my hands, but once I did that and I spun that into an actual bachelor's of science. Literally, it came easy to me, Paul. It was the most fun I had ever had, and then implementing that and rolling that out in the business world back in 2000. So it was 2007, 2008. We talked about obviously the downturn back then. So getting right out of college and then having the economy literally pump their brakes and say, hey, just kidding. This is great. You have a degree, you can put it on your wall, but nobody is hiring. I had loaded up my car with all of my stuff. I had 2 interviews down in Florida. For architecture firms, and it was a 2-day journey down there, and halfway down I was in Pennsylvania, and got calls from both the firms that I had meetings with, interviews with, and they basically said, hey Nick, hate to tell you this right now, but we're in a hiring freeze. It's like everybody had shut down. It was in that October window.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh shoot. I said, where do I go from here? Because it was the first time I'd ever been without a job too. I'm like, this is not good.
Mm-hmm.
So I spun that around, and I actually had networked with a lot of people when I was in college, and I joined AmeriCorps. So I joined AmeriCorps,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually worked for Habitat for Humanity for 2 years. And you make no money, but I mean, honestly, the relationships, the experience that you get, and I was 20 something at the time, and they fly you all around the country, so that wasn't a bad thing either.
Mm-hmm.
but it still talked to some of those people today, and it was a direct, it's a direct correlation to the market we're in right now, the building, that we're in, and you're just trying to help people. This is, it was the stuff they can't teach you in college that you learned, and the rest is history. I've worked for a few larger construction companies that weren't, they weren't family based. They weren't, it was literally you were a number. I was employee, 439, and it was how quickly can you get it done, and how efficiently can you get it done, and oh, by the way, move on to the next one. So again, going back to Cedar Mill Group, we're a 9-employee company, and honestly, we always tell people once you come here, once you're hired, you're never leaving. You can't go anywhere.
It's kind of like the mafia.
It is, exactly. But it's amazing. It's just this, and we're all, we're super diligent during our hiring process. We've utilized a few different techniques, and we utilize it's a personal assessment that have you ever heard of disc assessment?
Yeah, we use it here.
You use it? Okay.
Yeah.
So we utilize that. We implemented that about 6 years ago, and it's so funny to get guys that are in the construction industry that not only to take that, but then to sit around a conference table and do a 2-day seminar on really breaking that apart and what does that mean. And our disc language, all of us talk about it, and we've grown leaps and bounds, personally and from a business front. Now that we all know, how to interact with each other, and from a sales side, that is literally, it's amazing what that's done for us on a sales standpoint as well.
In terms of hiring salespeople, or
no, from like first appointment, second appointment. So the other thing, Paul, that Jeff and I have implemented and will never go back is we do a team sales approach. So it's always Jeff and I that go, and the reason we do that is that there's going to be, for a 2-hour conversation, there's going to be things that I hear, and there's going to be things that Jeff hears. He's going to hear things differently. But then there's always, when there's 2 decision makers at the table, obviously nobody has the same disc profile, and you start to pick and pull at what other people's disc assessments are, so that, you're going to want to be talked to a little bit differently than Danielle wants to be talked to, and so on and so forth, so you can really start to look at those key areas before they become a thing. And it's just another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, I think they think those assessment, a lot of people believe those assessment things are just to help you identify the types of people you want to hire. There's so much value, as you just said, Nick, in the team sharing that, because everybody likes to be communicated differently. If you've ever been to therapy with your wife, not saying I have, I love my wife, but everybody communicates differently and receives communication differently. And that's really important to identify. I think that's such a great call out. Already in the first 10 minutes here, we've got some great takeaways. One thing I want to talk to you about, though, so you got a close-knit 9-employee team. Once you're in, you're always in, much like a gang. But so when COVID happened, there was a lot of adjustment that needed to be made. From a business perspective, right? I assume in New Hampshire is much like everywhere else, where right away there was like a lot coming at us. We need to start working from home. We need to wear masks. We need to protect ourselves. We need to do social distancing. So just take me back there. What were some of the challenges you guys faced, and how did the team, your close-knit team, react? And how did the leadership of your team, communicate effectively?
We'll pan into, the first 6 hours of that, and it was like, the first, it really hit us when the governor really came in, and, all of a sudden these mandates come out, and it's, and I remember watching, I don't know if you ever watched the television when you were a child, watching for like cancellations and snow days.
Yeah, you bet.
So I remember there was 3 of us in our office just watching this TV, and we were all watching to see whether construction was going to be an essential business.
Yeah.
And I had customers. We were running 4 projects at the time, and I had customers that kept all day, that entire day, kept calling me saying, "Hey Nick, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" And I said, we got to wait. We have to wait and see whether we're essential, because if we're not essential, we're all going to go home and we're going to think about it for the next couple months, and then we'll come back. And so after we found out that we were essential. Then it was going back to these 4 projects, these customers, and saying, okay, we can legally still work on your project. What is this going to look like? Because again, it's a team approach. So not only did I want them to feel comfortable, but I also wanted, our team to feel comfortable, our trade partners to feel comfortable. And, obviously, most importantly, I wanted to feel comfortable about the decisions we were going to roll out. And we were blessed with the fact that 3 out of the 4 projects were all uninhabited. They were all second homes. The struggle with that is that they're all vacation homes, and we work on the New Hampshire-Mass border. Everybody from Massachusetts went north. Everybody that was in the city said,
Right.
"Hey, oh, by the way, this is supposed to be a 6-month project. Can you get it done in 4 months because we want to move in?"
Right, because they want to move out of those cities. We've talked a lot during the series about this this exit from the urban centers
Yep.
because you don't have to be there anymore. So that's funny. So you guys were doing vacation homes, and they wanted to be in those vacation homes.
Yeah, they 100% came permanent
Yeah,
homes, and it
yeah.
was, I had two customers that we were literally in the home stretch. We were probably 3 weeks from finishing, that called and said, "Nick, hey, listen, we'll pay you more money if you can finish." And I said, "It's not a money thing." I said, "It's just oh, by the way, we're trying to limit our job size." That's one, to answer your question. One of the things we did was, we limited, the amount of people on a job site at the same time.
Right.
We rolled out the masks, we rolled out the hand sanitizer. I wish I had invested in stocks before this, and
Hmm.
I'd be in a lot better spot. But
Right.
everybody was super on board with, again, you go back to that team approach. It's, we're going to roll this out. We need everybody to implement it. And, oh, by the way, I don't have the time to go job to job to check to make sure that people are actually following the protocol.
Hmm.
So, it was really, empowering and holding people capable that, yes, you're going to do this for yourself, but you're also going to do it for other people. And, I only had one job site where, we found one guy that wasn't following the protocol. This is about 6 months ago.
Hmm.
And, and he was one of our tile guys, great, awesome installer. And, he was feeling kind of sick, and long story short, he gave COVID to the entire, I had two of our employees were affected, and then 4 other trade partners were affected, and their families. And
Wow.
this was, it was a shock to me, because I said, I thought we were doing all the right things. And even that, you're not immune to it.
Hmm.
And it's, so even after that, one of my project managers who, he's our Buildertrend guru right now, he said, "Okay, how can I use Buildertrend to go ahead and, move the schedule around? Can I space people out? Can we communicate differently?" And we'll get to that in a little bit. But again, it was just making people aware, and getting their buy-in that they were going to go ahead and actually, implement the plans that we
Yeah,
were rolling.
and it probably helped to have buy-in already. I mean, it starts at the beginning. I mean, I think what we've realized in this is that if you didn't have a good setup, whether it's your HR, your hiring, your team communication, this probably just exacerbated that problem to you, because
Right.
if you had a great communication already, then you probably rolled with this as a company a little bit better. And that maybe is just, again, we're looking back and saying, okay, what can we learn from this and implement
Yep.
later and get better
Yep.
at? So if you didn't have it before, it just
Yeah.
basically showed you how important it was. One thing I want to talk about is your sales process, and I'm going to surround this around COVID, but I want to know. So I sort of preach to everybody about their sales process in construction is have a cadence, have a process. Do you guys, when you get a new lead, do you have a process you guys use? And is your call to action not like just try to sell them over the phone and show how great you are, but hey, let's set up a meeting. Let's set up our meeting. That's our first step.
You're right. It always, you always want to. This will be a two-folded answer, but obviously, once you've, you set up the meeting, you go to meet with the people. I always want to do it in person if we can. And even still to this day, it always, if we can do it in person or over Zoom, I want to meet you in person, because you can take a telephone call, you can read
Mm-hmm.
an email, but you're only getting a third of the communicators there. And somebody sends you an email, and you're automatically creating a story in your head about what they're
Oh
trying to
yeah,
tell you.
yeah,
On the phone, you can hear their voice, but they could be rolling their eyes at you, they could be doing, the body language is a big indicator
big.
and driver of how that meeting's going to go. So my number one thing is get in front of the customer, whether it be by Zoom or whether it be a face-to-face appointment.
Mm-hmm.
The second answer to that, and this is a big shout out to Buildertrend, is it was, so if you had seen our sales process, or at least our lead tracking before Buildertrend, I think it was on the back of a napkin, and that napkin was stuffed in a drawer. And you look at the napkin every now and then, but I mean, you're really relying on memory. And
Mm-hmm.
I always joke, I say, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, we're all in trouble,
Mm-hmm.
because the guy that keeps all the information, he seems powerful until all of a sudden he's not there.
Yeah.
So we utilized the lead tracking and the sales end of Buildertrend, just to keep a pulse checker. I always do a Monday morning meeting with the entire company, which for us is easy with nine employees, but it's always starting with lead tracking. We always want to tell guys, even if they think it's important or not important, I always want to talk about what we have in the pipeline. And we look at the percentages, we look at the closing rates, we look at, so again, using Buildertrend as that tracking tool, and it's in an easy spot. I mean, I can look at it right now if I wanted to, and it's just, as long as the sales guy does his job, inputs the data correctly, we can track it, we can look at it, and we can actually do something.
That's
with
awesome. Great stuff there. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about this, but some of the best construction business owners, and really just business owners in general, they over communicate to their team. And you had mentioned a great thing there, which is like, I tell the entire team about progress in sales, whether they think they should care or not. Trust me, that's in the back of their head. And if they can help that or sort of add to it, maybe it's months down the road because they've heard it every Monday and they have a good idea for you. But if you never involve them, then that's never going to happen. And everybody's more bought in, which is great. So let's talk about this real quickly, because I think you bring up a great point. Because every construction company should or does have a filter, right? You have mentioned it twice. Yep. You guys have a certain project that you do best in, whether that's best means make the most money or just are most efficient, or you're on your best foot for that job. You do your best quality work. You know sort of where that's at. So step one is defining that for your business. If you haven't yet, let's do that if you're listening. Step two is you then have to understand who's your best client. And you can only do that if you have some sort of checklist or filter during your sales process. And I think you nailed it. I mean, I literally just said this in the IBSX virtual class I just did, is you can't do that over the phone. There's a huge running joke with me and like my wife, whereas like the word sure in a text message is like the worst word of all time. Because it's like, hey honey, can you go do this? Sure. Oh gosh, she didn't like that one. But she could just be saying sure. So I mean, it's just a great example that words via like text or email, it's just so hard to understand the intent behind them. And so definitely get a face-to-face. Now, so you guys do virtual meetings, and one thing I wanted to ask, or maybe give you a tip, is that you have this team approach in sales because two people interpret things differently, which I think you're dead on with that. So do you guys record the Zoom calls that you do so that you can go back to them and be like, what did she say, or how did he or she say that?
That's funny that you said that. So I just found out that you could actually record these things.
Yeah.
So we have not, and I'm like, that was like a game changer. It was, I felt like I was just like, where have I been my entire life?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a process that I think we do not only for sales calls, but for trainings, for seminars, for, we talk to a lot of people. We do a lot of educational stuff. Recording it is huge, because then going back and it's like watching tape when you were in sports in college and high school.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, and that's I think we talk about this a lot. Hopefully it's not repetitive during this series because I've said it a number of times. But technology in construction has not been adopted as a whole, and we're still second lowest in terms of industries of tech adoption. And I think a lot of companies understood the value of technology, but there was barriers for them. Hey, I'm too busy right now, or Joe's 76. He's my carpenter. There's no way he's pulling his phone out. Mary, she's my accountant. She's stuck in her ways. Like, I'll wait till she retires, or I'll wait till a different time. I think what's been great about this pandemic is it's pushed people over the edge. It's like, there's no option now. Like, we're here.
100%.
We're here. And I think what's great about that, and tell me if I'm right with you and your experiences, once employees got pushed out of their routine, maybe they're open up to more of that. Like, let's seize this opportunity to say, now that you're out of your routine and you're still alive, like everything's fine, maybe we can start doing that more in our company.
Well, and the best part of that, and this came from a we adopted, using, again, Buildertrend, and we're a huge Buildertrend company. CRM, is the backbone of our process. And I remember, this is a couple months back, I was talking with one of our project managers, and I said, how can I make your job easier? Because he was just, I've been in his position before, and it's a stressful job. And he goes, hey, Nick, do you mind reaching out to the team and asking if anybody would be willing to do daily logs? And I said, well, they should already be doing daily logs. But I had a laborer that literally, he called me up that night and he said, hey, Nick, I'm not really a techie person, but he goes, can I manage the daily logs for whatever job site I'm on? And, I said, Michael, that's great. I said, go ahead. I did a walkthrough, I did a tutorial, and it was amazing. Once I gave him, the courage and just the power to say, yeah, go ahead and do this. It was amazing what came out of it. And then when everybody watched him doing this and having fun with it, and said, this is a 5 minute, 5 minutes out of your life every day that, can pay dividends in the end. And once they saw that he could do it, everybody said, well, that's easy. I can do this.
That's
And
awesome.
it slowly stepped from there. And it's like, okay, well, I can have the better daily log than this person, and I can have this. And I'm gonna put, I instituted a long time ago. I said, if you can do any, if I ask you to do anything with Buildertrend, can you at least post 3 pictures a day? I used to make this thing, because I can't be at every job site that we go through, and specifically with COVID now. I can't be everywhere. So the fact that I can, pull up, my phone or my computer and figure out, like, hey, this is the progress that got done this week, this month, this day. It's amazing how interactive, and it gives people, again, the opportunity to contribute in
Yeah.
ways that they never thought they were going to contribute.
Wow, that's such good stuff there. I mean, from employee engagement to that competitive thing between them, that's so great. I could have sworn you may have been like eavesdropping on my webinar I just did for IBSX, because my second takeaway for this class was daily logs. It's a philosophy and a workflow, and the vehicle could be anything. If you're using Buildertrend, obviously we have got the perfect thing for you. We have a feature called daily logs. But for a business to get in the habit of saying to their employees, hey, everyone, from now on, if you visit a job site, as you are leaving, take 2 minutes, add a log. Who was there? What happened? Send me 3 photos. Take a video, because you can do videos too. And every time, hey, let's take this a step further. Hey, everybody, every time you take a phone call from a homeowner, every time you interact with them, add log it. Because what's so great about that is, I mean, it's obvious, right? First of all, it gives you and the leadership team the ability to see literally months and years, day to day, what happened. There's no misconstruing that. But secondly, what I've heard from many people like you is that the next time you go talk to a homeowner, every homeowner believes like their project's your only project, and that's okay. That's kind of they. And so it allows you as a business owner or a leader to be so knowledgeable about the job without even having to be there. Before you talk to the client, you take 5 minutes, you scroll through the last 2 weeks of daily logs, and you're on it. So such a good takeaway. Your team should be doing daily logs. Don't care how you do it, but do that in your business, because it'll pay dividends.
The other thing that we adopted too, and this is similar to daily logs, but again, before Buildertrend, our communication process, our file structure process, I'd say it was at about a 60%. I mean, it wasn't bad by any means, but we had information and documentation everywhere, and if something went down, you were probably going to lose a chunk of that information.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing, you talked a little bit about this, but everybody has their habits, and that you get into this routine. And we broke, we specifically broke our field routine by, we used to handhold all of our lead carpenters, and I'd have a lead carpenter call me and say, hey Nick, can you give me the specs on this appliance or this install? And we had our designer, who really is instrumental with our project manager. They use Buildertrend as the central hub for everything. So we would go ahead and we adopted the practice of just putting things on Buildertrend and doing no printouts, doing no, certain things where, somebody would call me and I'd say, did you check Buildertrend yet? And then they, it got to the point where they would automatically want to check Buildertrend before they called me, because they knew that, the information was probably there, but they were lazy.
Mm-hmm.
We all get lazy. We
Right.
get into these routines. And now, honestly, it feels weird. I don't get the phone calls.
That's awesome.
I'm just like, I feel like I'm so disconnected, and I'm a huge controller. So for me, to be disconnected from that, feels different, feels weird, but it's progress and it's working.
That's great, man. That's such good stuff. All right. So one of the last questions, man, I wish we could do this. So here's my promise to the audience, because I know you're loving what Nick has to say. I am. You're coming back on in 2021. If you will, we'll do a full episode with you, because I really want to get in your head about business process and construction, because I think there's some great stuff there for you. Last thing I want to talk about is before or after COVID. Did you guys make a concerted effort to talk to your prospects about the communication that they should expect during the job? And what I mean by that, did you guys say, okay, this is going to be a 9-month job, and you lay out like you're going to be really excited at first, and halfway through you're going to be like, when are we done? You're going to be really great at the end. But did you get even more specific like that? Hey, like every 2 weeks we're going to have a meeting, me and you, or you and your project manager, and we're going to talk progress. Do you guys have any schedule like that?
We do, yeah. We have a huge schedule like that, and again, it all stems around Buildertrend. But I bring Buildertrend to the first meeting. I mean, this is a sales tool that we didn't think was going to be a sales tool, but I mean, I bring my laptop with me everywhere, and because we're a design build, in the beginning, I'm designing with them. So we use Chief Architect as our design platform. Love it. But you have the computer open for that presentation, so it says, oh, by the way, let me show you how we're going to communicate. And I always tell people this isn't the end all be all. We use Buildertrend again as a tool in the toolbox. Nothing beats that phone call, that face-to-face communication, the email.
Yep.
It all plays its part in the whole process. But we use the schedule a ton, because I schedule. They can see the only thing I did wrong the first time we used Buildertrend is I let the customers use I let them view the entire schedule.
Yep.
So on day number 2, they're looking at the end date, and they never forget that end date.
Right.
And we tell this story, and I say, listen, this is what we're going to do. So our weekly, I always do a weekly job site meeting. Whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's an hour. It's the old adage, trust but verify. I want to trust what people are saying, but I also want to verify that that is in true fact. And we log it all on Buildertrend. We tie it in with Outlook. We tie it in with a lot of different other, technological aspects in our business. And it all works. As long as you do the thing, it works. But you got to do the thing. That's the one thing is you got to use the tool.
Yeah, and you got to be consistent. I mean, I think so often. I mean, for me, I just always remind construction owners that, again, this is their first time. We don't have the best reputation as an industry, and I think that's wrong. I think that there's so many amazing companies like you guys who have great integrity and all of that. But as an industry in general, the construction doesn't have a great reputation. And so anything you can do to battle those two things from the get-go, which is be super professional, like have all your social media up to date, set a meeting and be on time, and then show them how organized you are, whether that's Buildertrend or not. I mean, you are going to just be head and feet above everybody else, because it's just not very common. And so great takeaway. I mean, I think you guys do it the right way. So how's next year looking for you guys? You guys had a great year. So how's next year looking?
So next year, I mean, again, it's so Jeff and I and the leadership team, every January we forecast, for that current year. And I'm always the more reserved one. It's, hey, I don't want to count the checks before they come in, but we always set these goals. And this coming year, I think we're going to do 1.5 times what we did this year.
Wow. That's
which then becomes a production, so it's so funny because you look at sales and you look at revenue and you're like, this is great, but it's, my 2 project managers I have, I get all jazzed up. I walk in the room and everybody's high-fiving and they're like, oh no, how are we going to get this done? It becomes a production and a scheduling thing. So my plug to everybody in the industry right now, there's so far fewer plumbers, electricians. It's amazing. The young kids that don't know what they want to do and they're in high school, they're seniors in high school. It's like, pick up the phone and call me, because I'm going to tell you that you can make such a great career out of this.
Yeah.
And there's not enough people in the industry, so it's spread the word. Bring back the trades.
Yeah, if you've listened to this podcast, again, we've had Brandon from Iowa Skilled Trades on early, and we've talked about that, and it's this idea that a blue collar isn't interesting. But man, if you start 18 as a plumber or electrician, you're going to be making so much more money than your buddies who are in college for 4 to 6 years. If you're like me at 6.5,
no student loans.
Yeah, no student loans, and you're going to be killing it. And the industry needs you. You'll be in demand. So I'm with you on that. We've got to get some more attention around that. Maybe we can try to get a consortium together of all my builder buddies, and we'll do
Game
something.
on.
Yeah,
I'm ready. Yep.
All right, man. Well, it's so good to hear from you guys and hear that last year you guys overcame the obstacles that everybody had, and then you guys are charging forward. So congrats. We super appreciate you as a client. And again, I promise we're going to bring you back on. Danielle, our producer here, she's going to schedule you already. We'll bring her back on, and let's talk a ton more things, because there's a lot to unpack there.
I really appreciate it, Paul. It's always great to talk with you, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right, take care.
Thank you again for tuning in to this episode of The Building Code. Make sure you subscribe and like wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, head out to Facebook and join the Building Code crew. And finally, drop me a line at podcast@buildertrend.com. We want to hear from you, suggestions on guests or topics, anything. Thanks so much for joining, and appreciate you.